Hello, welcome to our second WXP Live. My name is Braden French. I am here as your host this evening. I'm really stoked that you've been able to join us. Tonight is really exciting. A couple of months ago, we had our first WXP Live, and I invited a few friends to talk about youth ministry and the Uniting Church. And a lot of people wanted to be part of it. And we wanted to dig deep into a particular issue for each of these. So tonight, I've got three of my friends who have joined us, and we're going to have a particular chat about second-generation young people in the church, some of the myths around that, some of the opportunities, and some of the real-life stories. And so I'm going to pull them up now, and you're going to meet them, and we're going to get started. So, friends, welcome to WXP Live.
Yay!
Yay!
Yeah, and we're gonna put your names up there so people know who you are. There we are. So we've got Sam, Joyce, and Afadang. So you say hello to all the fans at home. Guys, I wanted to say straight up before this all goes horribly wrong, thank you for joining us this evening. It's a real thrill. You've been bombarded with messages from me in the prep, and it's after tonight you won't hear from me for a couple of days. So what we thought we'd kick off and let each of our guests tell you a little bit about who they are, their context, anything at all really, and once we've heard that, we'll dive into some questions. So I'm going to randomly choose Sam Chan to kick us off.
Lovely, cool. Well, my name is Sam Chan. My parents came from Malaysia. If you know where Malaysia is, there's Australia. Okay, Malaysia is just above Australia. They came to Australia in the 70s and were part of the first Chinese church here in Adelaide. My dad was one of the deacons. My mum was a Sunday school teacher, and they were very involved in church. My brother was the first baby of the church, so the first second gen, and I was the first second gen, born a few years later, to go into ministry. My church that I grew up in and spent most of my life there, I still go there a few times a year, though I am at another church now. I left my home church just 2 years ago. When it started, it went straight into mission mode and supported the Vietnamese that came out from Vietnam, then the Cambodians, and then the East Timorians, and also put on a Chinese service as well. So it was predominantly Malaysians, but it had Malaysian, Vietnamese, Cambodian, East Timorian, or Indonesian, and the Cantonese service. So it was very multicultural from the get-go, from the beginning. And as the church grew, those services, congregations went off and planted their own church. Yeah, I'm closing on 40 within the next 2 years. I will hit that number at some point. So I've been in the second gen ministry game for a while. I have been in ministry for over 20 years, but it's been a tricky journey. At times I've had to leave ministry and go into the community service work. So I've worked with young people in housing, in foster care systems, in alternative schooling programs, all while I tried to work out this second gen ministry space. Yeah, that's a bit about me. I currently work in the Uniting Church in the Synod. I'm a project person specifically looking at second gen ministry. And I drew a map so you know where I'm from. This is Adelaide here, in case you didn't know. That's where it's from. And I got a picture of my family. Here's my family. Yay. I have a 7-year-old and a 5-year-old, and a wife. She's actually adopted Korean, so she looks Asian, but she's really not. I call her a fake Asian. Her parents are white. But we've been married for just over 15 years. So I actually call her now a converted Asian, but she knows how to do the Asian thing very well, even though she's not Asian at all, except for the look.
All right, Sam, before you end up in marital problems, we might call it there. You're easily the most prepared, even more than the host. Thank you for that. And some shout outs. Don't forget, friends, you can drop comments. Tansy wants to see your shirt, Sam. We might get to that later. There's probably a backstory. Some love for everyone in the chat. Cyrus Kung just seems to be amazed by Facebook. He's always looking surprised and saying, wow. Look, there he is. A bit of love from Cyrus. Wow. So let's hear from our next panelist. We're going to randomly choose Afadang.
Hello. My name is Afadang. Some people call me Afi or Afa. I don't really mind. I am 22 years old. I'm currently doing a Bachelor of Nursing, and I manage Twitch Women's Sewing Collective, where we train women from a non-English speaking background clothing production, so then they can go on and get jobs. Yeah, I feel like that's main stuff that I do. I do a lot of like social justice warrior type stuff, which is, yeah, fun. Yeah, that's all about me. Don't have that much more to say, really.
No props. No props. All right. Brings us to our final panelist this evening. Joyce, you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Joyce. Yeah, and the person that commented is my best friend. Hi, everyone. Yeah, my name is Joyce. I am from Sydney, Western Sydney, from a town called Auburn. I am second generation living in Australia, and I'm loving it. And I'm from Tonga. Those that don't know, the most famous rugby league team right now, the red and white team, my team, MMT. That's something big now. I do work in community service in mental health. I am a youth leader at the Auburn Uniting Church. I help run Sunday school as well, and I am a task leader for the second gen team at the Tongan National Conference. I'm a big lover for coffee, so you can find me at cafes and learning more about tea. There's not enough tea in the world, so yeah, I'm happy to be part of the panel tonight. To learn more, to conversate, and have laughs with everyone here. So happy to be part of tonight's team.
All right, welcome. I'm proud that these guys are either friends or too polite to decline the invitation, and so we're going to get stuck in a little bit of housekeeping. And while I do this, panelists, you might want to think about growing up, what was the favorite thing that your grandma or auntie cooked for you for dinner? Okay, that's the first question without notice. What was the favorite thing that your grandma, auntie, when you were a child, what did they cook for you growing up? All right, the rest of you, viewers joining us and, you know, steadily joining us, it's lovely to see you. What I can tell you is that this was advertised with Leowana Palu as part of the panel. Leowana sends her apologies, but due to family bereavement, she's had to spend time with the family, and we wanted to acknowledge that. I wanted to say thanks to Leo for being willing to be part of this weird project, but family comes first always. So we'll find a reason for her to join us at some point. You can use the comment button below to be part of the show at any time. You can ask questions. You can send some love to our panelists. You can just generally participate in the show. You can give us some reactions. You can say hello. You can disagree. However you want to be part of the show, you can use the comment section. And if we like what you're saying, like old mate Daniel Yap here, we'll give it a bit of airtime. You know, it's like ABC's Q&A, but without the pretentious politicians that are lying to you. The other thing is later in the show, we're going to play a brand new podcast game called Enoji. We're an educational program here, and Apple just released another 70-odd emojis that takes the list up to about 800. And I'm going to test the knowledge of our panelists on what do emojis mean and what do we think they mean in a really exciting game called Enoji, trademark. And finally, those who tuned in last time will be familiar that we do all our own sound effects here at the show. And last time we used this little baby here, my wooden kazoo. And overwhelmingly, every complaint about the show was about this kazoo. So I've benched it for tonight. As you sure we get a bit of hearts and a bit of love. We've benched the kazoo. So the audience gets to decide. Tonight, the sound effects will be from one of two musical instruments, and whichever instrument gets the most comments in the chat will be the one we use. You can either, if you want to hear me play the recorder, type recorder in the chat. If you want to hear me play the xylophone, type xylophone in the chat. And after the first question, whichever one has the most comments, xylophone or recorder, that will be our sound effects for the night. If no one types anything, we're going back to the kazoo. So you've been warned, you've had warning. Recorder or xylophone for our own sound effects. And finally, if you're enjoying this, give us a little love. Share the video with some friends. If you think this is worth other people eavesdropping, we're going to be here for a little while. Then, you know, share the video, tag friends in comments, say, oi, check this out. Old Sam's on the internet. You know, or Affy's online. We haven't seen her. So, all right, I think that's all the plugs. In the event of the emergency, run away. All right, question number one. Oh, let's go to our panelists now. Joyce, you first. What was that favorite meal as a child?
I don't remember anyone cooking, but I do remember the Happy Meal, McDonald's Happy Meal. My grandma used to take us there every Sunday. McDonald's.
Okay. Sam?
I used to go to Malaysia when I was young, I still do now, and eat lunch in my grandfather's shop. And my grandfather had a cook who had that cook for all the staff. And at Chinese New Year time, they used to get these wax ducks. They used to squash 25 ducks, I think maybe it was 10, into a little tin. Squash them all, flatten them, and dried them out. It was a little bit like lapchong, it's a Chinese sausage, but it was made from duck. And they used to chop up, you get this little piece, but it would be like intense flavor. Like one piece of this wax duck would be enough for your whole lunch, flavor-wise. Like it's like a whole Big Mac squashed into a duck, into a piece of duck. Wax duck, it's good. You can't get it. Sorry?
10 ducks. Just squash.
Yeah, 10 ducks in a can. It comes in a can.
In a can.
Yeah.
It's amazing. All right. And Affy. Oh, wait, I pressed the wrong button. There you are. Any food memories?
Well, it's not really a meal, but during Christmas we have these traditional biscuits called khabis, and I just remember every time Christmas would come around, I'd just be excited to have them. And yeah, they're just awesome. And Christmas is close, so it's that time again.
All right. Excellent. Christmas is close. Thank you, Affy. No one asks, but my grandma used to make lamb's fry, which was liver and kidneys. And she would fry them. She didn't eat them, but she cooked them for me, and I used to love them because no one else ate them, so there was always heaps. It's like blue cheese. If you learn to love it, there's always heaps. All right, that's enough. Let's check in. We've got a few moments before we decide the thing, but there is a bit of love for the kazoo. Thank you, Tansy. Thank you, John, Cyrus. there is a bit of love for the xylophone. No one has. Oh, Steph has requested the recorder. So at the end of this question, once all our panelists have answered this next question, we'll do a little bit of maths. And I think the kazoo's out. So we can't have the kazoo. Noise complaints from the neighbors, all that sort of stuff. But the xylophone or the recorder, and that'll be our soundtrack for the night. All right, let's start at the top. I don't mind who goes first. How comfortable do you sit with the second gen label, and what does it mean to you? How do you understand it when we say second gen, or when someone refers to you as a second gen? What do you think about that? Who wants to kick us off? This is not good content, friends. Someone's got to talk. Joyce, kick us off.
Okay. Yeah, I'm 100% comfortable being labeled as second gen. Yeah, I'm loud and proud. Knowing that my parents both migrated, not together, but separate, to find a better lifestyle for us. Planning for the future. Just in saying that, it just, yeah, being second gen, being in Australia, knowing the hardships back home, it's yeah, happy to label myself as a second gen. Yeah, I'm grateful knowing that my parents came from Tonga by boat. Yeah, just thinking about the future and knowing where we are now. Yeah, I'm happy to yeah, label myself as a second gen.
Awesome. Thanks, Joyce. Afa, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I'm the same. I don't mind it because my parents, you know, did come over from South Sudan, so I am a second generation kid. So I don't really find it offensive unless someone says it with, you know, a negative connotation. Mm. If it is, you know, said to make me feel some sort of way, then yeah. But just in general, I don't take any offense to it. Second gen and proud.
All right. Sam?
Yep. I'm okay with the title. But I would say I don't always feel okay using the title because academically, second gen is those that are born here in Australia. And I think the second gen community is has people in it that are not all born in Australia. Some of them are born overseas and then they come to Australia quite young. So academically, they don't fit the second gen category. They're more the 1.5 category. Or there are second gens that are born here and then they spend a couple of years overseas and then they come back. So they kind of fit. They fit the born in Australia, but yeah. So I think I'm fine with that. I'm fine people call me second gen, but when I speak about second gen, unfortunately there is no great term that includes second gen, 1.5, TCK kids, or mission kids, or those that are formed between numerous worlds. Yeah.
All right. Now let's just clarify, because Sam, you said that earlier you were touching 40. Whoa.
Not yet.
Not yet, but soon. Alpha, you're not 40.
No.
You're younger than that, but never ask a female their age. So
I'm 22.
Oh, thank you for volunteering. That makes this easier. We've got quite a span here. And Sam, you're married. You're a dad. You know, Afa, you're not a dad. And so we've got this one title, this one term that we use that actually, man, the props, I can't keep up. We've got this span of experience and life stages that's all broadly under this category that we just sort of throw around flippantly, second gen. I think that's interesting, and I'm hoping and I'm confident that some of that will appear evident in our chat as we go on. So yeah, that's cool. All right. Anyone else want to say anything about labels? Let's try the Brady Bunch look. Ooh, look at that. That's fancy. Anyone want to say anything else about labels before we go on?
I think labels sometimes also box people in and stereotype people, but I think they're good to use. But always check your label.
Check your labels.
Check your labels.
Okay, cool. Hang on, I'm just dabbling with my first on-screen update. Look at that. This is the high-quality content. Enoji the game coming up later in the show. All right. That would have been good if that had emojis in it, but we're not that tech here. All right, friends. Let's have another question. Let's go to another question. My colleague, Swean Ko, and here's a really glamorous photo of Swean. There it is. There he is. Oh, he won't be watching because he doesn't know how to use the internet. Oh, hang on. Jeanette is just tuned in, wants to say hello. Hello, Jeanette. Welcome. You've missed nothing yet. Except now, Check Your Labels is now trending on Twitter. Lots of love for the wisdom from Super Sam Chan. Welcome to those joining in the Sam Chan fan club. But my buddy Swean wrote an article, it's nearly 18 months old now, called Racism in the Church. And he won a journalistic award for it just like last month for naming uncomfortable truths. And what he says is that in his experience and in the experience of individuals from the CALD communities, culturally and linguistically diverse communities, that racism is part of the lived reality. He never suggests malice, but he says that through unconscious bias, through default power structures, and just through naivety, people from CALD communities experience racism. We will chuck the link to that article in the chat later tonight, but if you're interested, Google racism in the church crosslight, and it'll pop up. And I'll get brownie points tomorrow for mentioning Swean's work. To our panelists, does our church have a problem with race? Have you seen it or experienced it? Again, dead air isn't great content. So who wants to jump in?
I'll go.
Thank you.
Yes, racism is definitely prevalent. It might not be bold or like racism that you can see, but it's still there in, the form of microaggressions a lot of the time. And yeah, as you mentioned, naivety and people just saying, backhanded comments or things that, like microaggressions or saying things where you don't mean to be racist, but you still kind of are racist. There's a lot of that in the church, and I've definitely experienced it. Like from people making assumptions about how much money you have or how much money your family has, or just wanting to donate stuff to your family but not really checking if that's okay. To things like that. People just making assumptions about you, or even people questioning or asking you if your father's in the picture, which is, it seems like it's very blatant racism, but a lot of people don't understand why that would be considered racist. So, yeah.
Wow. Thanks, Afi.
No
Joyce?
worries.
That was great. Thanks, Appa. In my context at my church and what I've experienced, it's very multicultural compared to just Tongan by itself. But when I do go to other churches, I do feel I've seen it, just like what Afa said. It's there, but it's not really talked about, or it's not really discussed. I think in my reality, there's a lot in my own Western, if I can put it in a Western Sydney kind of gangster life, if I can call it that. I think everyone can speak to themselves, but sometimes when there is a mix, when we get together with other cultures, there tends to be a side of you can see it happening, but
Cool. Thanks, Joyce. Sam, something to add?
Is there racism? Yes, racism is everywhere, in the church and outside of the church, definitely. I would say the Uniting Church does a great effort to try and acknowledge it and get rid of it. I've worked with a number of different denominations, and the Uniting Church is where I found myself, as they are the most open to multiculturalism and are most aware of racism. But I would say, you know, on a report card, in some schools, you get a score for your performance and you get a score for your effort. If I can say, many churches score very high for their effort. They definitely try, and they try hard, but their performance fairly passable sometimes. This unintentional racism is very prevalent. Very prevalent. Yeah.
Thank you for your honesty, friends. These questions are going to get harder and harder, so buckle up. There's a question from Nicole, and we're going to answer that. Well, we're going to ask that by way. I think it's a great question, and also I want to model that our viewers can participate. So we'll ask that in a question, but I did promise that we would reveal the answer to what we will use for our sound effects, xylophone or recorder. I'm just tallying them up. This is really where I need a personal assistant. Friends, I think I'm going to call it. Tonight's sound effects will be brought to you on the xylophone.
Yeah.
And it matches the Lego logo from the promo, so that's great style. And I don't have any xylophone skills, but that didn't stop me with the kazoo. So I intend to have a go on this xylophone that I bought from Big W for $4. So throughout the night, when sound effects are warranted, we will go to the xylophone. Thanks for playing along there. Now, Nicole Mugford has asked the question. This is going to take up the whole screen. All right, here we go. I'll read it out. I don't know what you guys can see on your screen. One thing I appreciate about second-gen people is the way they know, own, and celebrate their culture. As a white Anglo person, I don't really feel I have a culture and heritage worth celebrating, and that I don't know much about my family history. What can second-gen and the multicultural church teach us white fellas about appreciating our culture and background? Whoa!
That's a question.
That is it. Did you guys catch that? Because it's up to you now to answer it.
Yep.
All right. Who wants to dive in? What can second gen people teach us whiteys about celebrating and understanding culture and background? Joyce.
I think that the second gen have a willingness to learn, to educate themselves, and to be present with the multiculturalism in our church. I think there's like 5 different cultures at mine, and the willingness is there. especially from the second generation. And if the willingness is there from the young people, which in my case is the majority of the church, it just shows that there can be more growth, more education, and more working together, if that helps. The willingness and openness that I feel racist if I say white fellas, but it's it's the, you know.
You can say
I
white
love
fellas.
the openness. Yeah. Thank you. I know. I feel the willingness that they have to embrace other cultures is great.
Yeah, but I'll push back on that. I think part of Nicole's question is actually how do we understand our own cultural background? And I mean, you know, part of it is that there's not a lot to be proud of and celebrate. But how do we bring that to, as part of who we are, to church and to gatherings? Sam or Afi, got anything thoughts?
I think there's a right and a wrong way of, I guess, celebrating being white, in that obviously Pauline Hanson shows us the wrong way. And if you want to celebrate your heritage and your culture, that's your right. And if it's, of European or of European heritage, then you should celebrate that. But there's a right and a wrong way to do it. And I think in terms of celebrating other people's culture as well, you have to be respectful and sort of be invited into that culture, not just celebrate it on your own, because that's the wrong way to do it. And yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with being white. Like, no one's ever said being white is wrong. And I mean, but you can't really say white is right. That would be wrong also. So it's about finding the balance of where do you fit in and how do you celebrate your culture without offending other people, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Sam,
Oh, no.
Brayden, where'd you go?
I don't know.
He ran away.
Well, let me answer the question wherever Brayden went. So, Afi, have you finished?
Yeah, I was done.
Nicole, I just want to pick up on the question. You said, I don't really feel like I have a culture and heritage worth celebrating. Oh, Brayden, you're back. Yesterday was November 11th. It was Remembrance Day. And much of the country celebrated that. That is a big part of the Australian culture, fabric, heritage, and it's worth celebrating. Anzac Day is worth celebrating. That is definitely part of, when you say you don't feel like you have a cultural heritage, I think it's, like the fish in the water being the culture. We swim in the water, and so sometimes it's hard to see it. When we talk about what is Aussie culture, if you go overseas and live overseas for a while, you will definitely realize what Aussie culture is and find other Aussies to connect with. But coming back to your question, what can second gens and the Multicultural Church teach the white fella? I think when we talk about second gen, there is such a diversity within second gen. The different cultures that we come from, and even within those different cultures, there's those who do celebrate their culture and those that don't celebrate their culture. But if I just come back to the different types of second gen, so I'm second gen Chinese Malaysian. I don't speak Chinese very well, or I would say I really don't speak it at all. I can watch Chinese movies if there are subtitles. But when we talk about passing on heritage, the heritage that second gen Chinese Malaysians get passed on to is often food and the work ethic to study hard. But when I say food is passed on, a lot of second gen Chinese, Malaysians, Singaporeans, we can't cook our food. I can, but a lot of my friends, I can't cook their own traditional food. But if you look at second-gen Vietnamese, a lot of second-gen Viets can cook their own food. Definitely here in Adelaide, a lot of the Cantonese restaurants are closing because the Cantonese people came out in the 90s. The Vietnamese people came out in the 70s, and there are more Vietnamese restaurants starting up because second-gen Viets have learned their traditional foods and are now starting their own restaurants, taking over the parents' restaurant and starting their own. Whereas second-gen Chinese people, if their parents own a restaurant, their parents push them to go to university and get other degrees so that they don't have to take over the business. And so in that process, they're actually losing the culture of their food. So Cantonese food is, at least here in Adelaide, we're losing Cantonese restaurants. So I think it really depends which second gens you talk about. Oh, and what can we teach the white fella? I think it's very tricky when we're talking about teaching. Culture isn't something that we can we can talk about it here or in a classroom, but culture is something that you need to live. That's tricky. So us second gens are often living between these two worlds, you know, our home life versus our work or schooling or society that we live in, and we go back and forth. If we're going to teach a white fellow, I would say the white fellow needs to also live between two worlds if they want to have our experience. So they live in their Western world and then go join a migrant church every Sunday, right? Or go get involved in a migrant community, not a once-off, oh, this is a nice experience. Go live in that community, like a short-term mission or something. For 6 months, 2 years, go live in a migrant community and live the culture. That's how I think we would teach a white fellow.
All right, thanks, friends. A little bit of housekeeping. Linda Drive has dropped an excellent comment there in response. It's not a question. About listening to each other's stories and cultural traditions, being respectfully curious, more and more interested in asking rallies about our stories so that I can discover more of my culture. Thanks, Linda. That's fantastic. One area of Anglo culture which is widely untapped is this baby, music and dance, and the kazoo. You know, it's part of it. And as well, in the comments before, someone suggested that they were going to have to leave because Have You Been Paying Attention is on in 5 minutes. Look, we all make choices. Get a TiVo or watch it on 10 Play later. This only happens once, except that it'll be available on our Facebook channel for the next, till Facebook goes under. But if you're watching, if you're lurking, thank you. We all make sacrifices, and my sacrifice tonight is that I'm not watching Have You Been Paying Attention with my lovely wife. Friends, we are flying through this. How are we going, panelists? We good?
Yep.
Yep.
Good.
Yep, all good.
Well, on the podcast, we have a library segment, and I'm going to do that really quickly tonight. Just one book in the library that I found really helpful. And so here's the musical segue. There we go. Pretty good. Library book this week, Intercultural, got to do backwards, Intercultural Ministry. It is edited, Hope for a Changing World, edited by Grace Ji-Sun Kim and Jan Aldridge Clanton. And what this is, it's one of those great books where it's about 19 different essays, basically. So you cover a whole range of stuff in great depth from experts and practitioners, and you can sort of pick your own adventure. I found this great as an educational, Catherine Tran, that's very unkind towards my xylophone playing, a really educational read. And I want to read you 2 parts from it. By way of endorsing. The first one's from a chapter called Laying a Foundation for True and Viable Intercultural Church. And this is a great little paragraph. Historical relationships, social influences, stereotypes and preconceived notions, Power structures and racial privileges must not be underestimated. And deep-level root causes must be acknowledged, examined, processed, and addressed if true intercultural ministries are to develop and thrive. I think what I hear in that is that if one hand we say we want to be an intercultural church, but on the other we resist any change from the status quo that has largely benefited the accidental history of Anglos running the church, then we're probably not as committed as we pretend to be. And the other one, right at the end here, the editor, Grace Ji-sun Kim, sort of summarizes the articles into about 14 insightful strategies. Look, it's a book. I'm not making it up. And I wanted to read you a few of those. Confess the sins of racism and white supremacy as we confess other sins. Practice radical welcome of all to lead the world in the work of reconciliation. Encourage honest, open relationships about past and current injustices. Create safe and compassionate communities where people who have suffered trauma of racism can find healing. Create space for multiple truths to be engaged and understood. Use language and imagery inclusive of gender and race. Market to attract people of diverse races and cultures. There's many more, and we haven't done this book justice, but I do recommend, if you're looking for a book to give you a sort of broad snapshot of some of the realities, opportunities, and challenges, this well-edited book, I do recommend Cultural Ministry. Check it out. All right. Next question. No laughing about the xylophone. Someone actually said, bring back the kazoo. Look at that, Steph. See, we'll bring back the kazoo, which reminds me, so far, the comment of the night goes to my new best friend, Andrew Luong. I like the Jurassic Park. Me too, man. I love it. Oh, this way. People, there was a bit of love for Sam Chan's shirt early on, but I'm controlling the comments. So, and Carissa also loves my shirt. That's what I'm taking that to mean. So yeah, all right. Here we go. I told you the question is going to get harder. Question number 4 of the night. I want to put to you 2 generalizations that create an obvious intersection, and then we're going to add a second intersection. Most people would suggest that migrant communities are generally theologically conservative. And most people would suggest that Australia is probably more socially liberal than a lot of other societies. How do you experience that intersection with a conservative theology inherited and in a liberal society? And then how do you experience that intersection with your parents as well? And none of your parents are watching because we're on the internet. So you can be honest. Or are those generalizations unhelpful and untrue? I would love to hear thoughts from any of you. Erin says, hey, Joyce. So Joyce has been dobbed in to start.
Thanks, Erin. Yeah, that's a major question. In my own understanding, it is so true. So I grew up in the Uniting Church, but in the Tongan-speaking congregation, where majority of the stuff came back to a Methodist style, bringing back from the islands. And 2 things that I always remembered growing up was 2 major things that was always in the back of my mind. Like, 1, red was the blood of Christ, And if you don't accept Jesus into your heart, like nothing else mattered. So growing up, that was the mentality that I had. But with the first gen, with the, you know, the parents and everything. But whilst growing up, living in the Uniting Church and being part of the second gen activities, such as Aurora and all the Sunday stuff, there was starting to broaden my mind, and the mindset was being within the Uniting Church. I was more freer than my parents was, if that makes sense. I could think other views than the typical two, that the things that the foundation that I was brought upon. Does everyone understand what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
So in the Tongan culture, which played a lot with the traditions and the way we worship, a lot of things were taboo and a lot of things was very conservative. But in today's society, within our church, I'm so happy and blessed to be part of more discussions, more conversations of the way that different opinions have came about, which is great. I think whilst journeying through the Uniting Church, my parents also have been able to grow with me. That's something that I see. It's not the conservative thing that was back in 20 years ago, but it's something that we get to grow together.
Awesome.
That's what I have to say.
Thanks, Joyce. And Afa, Claire Dorr gave you a shout out. So you've been dobbed in next. We're talking about the intersection of a sort of generational theological conservatism, if that's a phrase, and when it hits the road in the Australian context where we find ourselves, where it's probably more socially liberal, what's that like for you?
I think I would have to agree with Joyce, because my parents were a lot more conservative, and with their generation, it was very, this is the Bible. Like, you cannot go outside this. This is what we believe. You know, like if there was an earthquake, they would immediately say, "Oh, thank God we didn't die in that." And yeah, so even just a light tremor, and they're like, you know, that's God's work. It wasn't a full-blown earthquake. And, you know, I was a believer of science. So I'd be like, no, it's because there's no tectonic plates. And they're like, no, it's God. So it's very much, yeah, God is everything, and you can't stray outside of that box. But yeah, growing up with my generation and, you know, my friends, they're a lot more open-minded and a lot more not conservative. So yeah, I'm not too sure about how it links in with the liberal Australia. That part I don't understand, but yeah.
Awesome. No, just blame the question. Just say that it was a rubbish question. Sam, your fan club seemed to have gone off to watch Have You Been Paying Attention? But I'm glad you're still here. So do you want to tell us a bit about your experience?
Yeah, I think when two cultures meet, a number of things happen. One, it can be like train tracks, right? And the
props.
and the cultures run alongside each other, and they don't actually meet. They run parallel alongside each other, or when they do meet, it can be like fire and water, right? And they clash. Sometimes there are some other scenarios that it can be, but I think those are probably the two main ones. They are the ones alongside each other, so the migrant community being generally theologically conservative and Australia being generally liberal, church being migrant community, and my school life, that was very much train tracks. They didn't really meet, especially going to a Chinese community. It was very hard to bring friends from school to church because unless you were Chinese, you stood out a bit. But the times when it did clash, when it was a fire-water situation, I found the first-gen community, let me say, culture isn't about being right or wrong. Culture is often just different ways to do things. What I found being in the migrant community, the first-gen would often tell us the Western way is wrong. They would often say, especially when it comes to like the notion of study. If you don't finish year 12, and go on to university and go on and get if you take a gap year or if you go and do a trade, that's wrong. You've got to go study. Not that it's wrong. I'm not saying that's what my experience of growing up in a migrant community is. And so sometimes for those that really struggled with study, that was a big clash for them. Those that didn't make it to university, that's a big clash for them because the migrant community is saying you're becoming white, and that's wrong. And so I think for those people, it can be a real clashing point. But for I think a lot of us, it's the train tracks. The worlds don't meet. Yeah. How's that, Braden?
Oh, it's good, man. It's good. I wish I'd done some of the prep that you've done. That would be great. That's why you guys are here, really. I'm here to add some diversity and a few lols. We are moments away from playing the very first ever game of Emoji, where we decode some of the emojis that we get on our phones and on Facebook, and it's really an educational service. Who knows? Some of our viewers might have an emoji that they're not sure of and would like our expertise. They could drop that in the comments right after they start complimenting the various T-shirts of our guests. So, friends, how this is going to work? I did warn you beforehand. I'm going to hold up an emoji on the camera, and so far I've been really good at getting that right. And then you guys are going to tell us what you think that is, and then I'll tell you whether you're correct or not. All right? How does that sound? Afadang suddenly trying to find an excuse to leave.
No, it's just background noise.
Oh, no, that's fine. A late breaking question. Claire Dorr. Sorry I'm late to discussion. She had to have a nana nap. That's fine, Claire. We're glad you're here. Do you feel that the Uniting Church values your cultural insights? Now, remember, it's just the four of us chatting. So whatever you say, you can't get in trouble for. Do you feel I'll get in trouble? You won't. Do you feel that the Uniting Church values your culture and the insights it brings? Sam's gone green early. No, Sam is flip-flopping. He's going to get splinters from that fence. Joyce, what do you think?
Yeah.
Affy?
I say yes, because there's individuals in the Uniting Church that value my opinion, such as Claire Dorr. But as a whole, I don't think so.
Okay.
So yeah, there's individuals that do support us, but yeah, as a whole Uniting Church, I don't think so.
How does that feel? I imagine it's not great.
No, it's not great because, we are a part of the church and a large part at that. So to have our voices heard would be, important. It is important to have our voices heard. But, I guess in due time.
Sam, other than throwing up all your cards, do you want to add comment? Thanks, Affy, for that.
I think the Uniting Church definitely values multicultural. That's the church. They definitely give us a space to share our voice. But multiculturalism, culture is definitely tricky. Once they hear our voice, what they do with it, I think that's the tricky part. So I think they definitely have great intentions, but to follow through is hard. It's hard. That's what I like to think. I don't want to think anything else. That they just go, all right, tick the box. See you later. Let's. I think that they do hear us, but yeah, the follow through is hard. It's tricky.
Thanks, Sam. A bit of love for Afa's comment. Another trending hashtag in due time. David Turnbull asks a question, and we might. I'll give you a warning on this. Thanks, Dave. I think it's a good question. What can be done to rectify that, or improve that, and what would add our voice, your voice, more? David, thank you. We'll answer that question after the game. Okay, friends? We'll answer that question because it gives you a moment to think about it. I don't want to rush you. Here we go. My outrageous statement is that the white church needs to stop asking the brown church to feed us and dance for us and actually sit at the table and listen. That is what needs to happen. We can make our own sandwiches and we can play our own music. It is time to share the table and listen. There you go. Nothing else you'll say will be as racist as that. So you guys are in the clear. All right. Time for the world's first ever and possibly last ever game of, I'm going to put it on the screen so people know it, emoji. Trademark. All right. So I'm going to hold up an emoji. You guys are going to tell us what you think it is, and then I will tell you what it is. Okay, so the first one. All right, what do we think that one is?
Duck face.
Okay, Sam says duck face. Afa, what do you think?
Blowing kisses?
Blowing kisses.
Don't know.
Joyce?
I'm not sure what's going on with the eyes, but I'm pretty sure it's like a side kiss.
Okay, I think I give the points to Afa. According to the Emojipedia, this emoji is kiss with smiley eyes. Yeah, kiss with smiley eyes. Okay. All right, now we're warming up. This is a newer one. This is a newer one. Here we are. This one. Here we are. What do you think that one is? Joyce, you're first.
Maybe muddled up face, had too many drinks the night before.
Too many drinks the night before face. Afa?
Burping?
No, that was me. What about the emoji? The emoji. You're going to go
the
burping?
emoji. I think
Burping emoji. Okay, Sam?
I think it could be one of two things. One, gone to the dentist, and you know how they numb your face?
Oh, yes.
But they stuck it a bit too high, and it numbed their eye and like their whole face.
That is oddly specific for an emoji, but sure, maybe.
Or maybe the person's having a stroke and have lost one side of the brain function.
A stroke emoji, maybe. No, points to Joyce. This is woozy face, which I take to mean, a little bit hammered. Woozy face. Now, this one, I think, is the example of when diversity might have gone too far. I think we all know what it is. I'm just not sure if we could ever imagine using it. This is dark-skinned ranger. So this is one of the new ones when they invited gingers into the emoji family, but then you can choose sort of a facial skin color, and I chose the dark skin one. Can anyone imagine having to ever use the dark-skinned ginger emoji?
Is that when you tries to go blackface?
I'm not sure. It's like the reverse Donald Trump. I'm not sure what it is. I mean, it's solidarity. It is Movember, so I guess he's supporting that. But look, I'm not going to ask you what it is. I just found it and I thought that's ridiculous. All right, next one. This one is an emoji. Here we are. Get her on screen. What do we think this one is? I'm not very good at this.
Ooh.
There we are. Okay, Sam, you're first. What do you think this emoji means?
I think it's one of those Sunday school action songs.
Okay.
You know, with Christ is my rock, mountain.
Okay. Good. Afa?
Is she hula hooping?
Ooh,
okay.
good one.
Joyce, what do you think?
Maybe, yeah, like a stretching up to the sky.
Okay. Well, you're all wrong. That emoji is technically woman with okay gesture. Apparently, that's how we say okay. I don't know why. I didn't design it, but that's what it is. Yeah, I would have thought there is a hand gesture okay, which is what I send to my wife when she asks me to buy groceries on the way home. But that gesture is also meant to be okay. This one. Anyone know what this is? Sam, you will because you're 40. Afa, do you know what this is? Oh, Sam's left.
Yes.
He's got to go have a
I
nap.
just can't remember the word. It's just not coming to me.
Okay.
But
Joyce?
I know what it is.
It was called a floppy disk.
A floppy disk.
Is it called a floppy disk?
Sam
I don't know.
Sam has is that a 5 1/4 inch?
It's the generation before.
Wow. So what I find intriguing is that this is still the symbol on like Microsoft Word for save, even though we haven't used these for like 20 years. I find that odd.
Oh.
Anyway, last one. This segment's going gangbusters, friends. Emoji is trending all over the world. People are going to be playing this around the dinner table. This one. Cyrus is also claiming that Sam's older than 40. We will need to we'll need a birth certificate. Oh, people are playing along. Oh, I'm sorry. I've missed the comments. Sorry, friends. All right, Sam's giving up. Joyce, what do you think?
No idea. Caught on
No
pie?
idea. Oh, pie. Now we're talking. Afa, what do you reckon?
Zoomed in lemon.
Oh, so close. According to the Apple, the Emojipedia, this means bald. So, yeah. See, it's good to know your emoji. And, yes, all those private messages, I am growing my hair a little bit. So, yeah. A few private messages about Braden's new hairstyle. Yes, I am growing it. Thank you for the love. And whilst I'm now being massively favourite in what comments I do put up, Louis up there in the territory, Braden dropping a truth bomb. Boom! Mic drop. All right. John, thank you. John's giving us a bit of cultural intelligence here. Philo's point to things by blowing a kiss towards them. Thanks, John. Katie,
Thanks, John.
Showing us that she does her morning exercises with the OK signal. Just a bit of stretches. Sorry that we didn't get all of them up. Oh, there's some real confusion about what I said. Catherine Tran is right. It was the bald emoji. If you're not sure, friends, there's a really good way to find out. Get your phone and just start typing, and they come up. All right, we got to move on. That game wasn't that game great? That'll be back. Game of Games. Grant Daniel will be playing that soon. And if you get it wrong, you'll drop into like Jello or something. I am going to warn the audience that we've probably only got 10 more minutes. So if you have questions that you would like our panel to tackle, and by panel, I mean those guys. No, those guys. Oh, it's hard to point. Make sure that you drop it in the comments. Last question. It deserves a musical intro. I'm getting more confident. Friends, the church has been talking about the second generation for, I reckon, at least 15 years in some capacity, with hope and optimism and all this stuff. It's how you get elected to positions of leadership, because you talk about the potential of second gen. What might your parents or your ministers or church leaders be saying about second gen young people that respectfully is not true? Is there anything you hear in the church that are spoken about you or on your behalf that respectfully, with the utmost respect, simply isn't true? And you want to name that. Remember, it's just the four of us. No one is listening.
I think the preconceived idea that the second generation don't want to get involved in the church in general, or that we don't have ideas to share. And I think that's wrong, because we have pretty awesome ideas. And yeah, would love to get involved.
Awesome.
I think that's a big one.
Yep. Janet dropped us a comment a few minutes ago affirming that. Yeah. Joyce, anything you hear that you think is just not true or unhelpful?
I'm just looking back through the comments. There was someone that said, Braden dropped the mic. Who was that? Who said that?
Ooh.
That person.
Louis. Now, boy.
Yeah, I think there were just been thinking while we were playing the game. I think the church thinks that second gen want to be entertainment all the time. Wrong. Do not want to entertain while people are eating, or if people are tired and need some enjoyment. They're not there just to sing songs and, you know. But like I said, the second gen have a lot of ideas, and a lot of things could be learned through the second gen. So that's
I threw your loudspeaker because I thought it was Truth Bomb.
Yeah. Truth Bomb.
Sorry, I didn't ask your permission to put your loudspeaker. But that's all right. Sam?
I think the church has a lot about second gen, or parents do. Some of them say that we don't value our culture. And I think that especially comes out with the Aussie culture in terms of paying people out. Aussie culture is very self-deprecating. And when you pay other people out, or you pay yourself out, you laugh at yourself. So we pay ourselves out about being Asian. And Asian first gens look at that and go, are you not proud of your culture? Are you not proud to be Chinese? I'm definitely proud to be Chinese, but I definitely take that Chinese culture a lot too. That is very not to pay out. I think there's a cross-cultural misunderstanding there, that second gens are not proud of their culture. But I also think living in between two worlds is definitely tricky to be proud of your culture. There are times when it's quite hard to be Chinese, or it's quite hard to be whatever culture that we come from. So they say second gens get to pick the best of both worlds. I think that is sometimes true. I think that also means we get to choose the worst of both worlds. And often what ends up happening is we actually take the easiest path forward. And sometimes the easiest path forward in the church, when we have a lot of pressure from the first generation to be a certain way, to act a certain way, is to not engage in the church leadership. You know, when the church says get involved, we're keen, we want to get involved. But to get involved is actually quite hard. And to get involved to do what is on our hearts is quite hard. I think first gen love the second gen and greatly support the second gen. But I think it's like giving a kid $50 and go buy all the lollies you want in the health food shop. I think first gen absolutely want to support it, but there is strong limitations.
All right. Cool. I forgot David's question, so we're going to jump back there. David, if you're still hanging around for the answer, credit to your faithfulness. What can be done to rectify this? So we were talking about how culture and story of second gen can be expressed in the church and how the church can make space for that. And we've just sort of named some of the realities and some of the challenges. So practically, what are some of those ways? And while you're thinking about that, here's another Braden truth bomb that I learned this week, that it's really easy for the dominant culture to declare things to be a safe place and to encourage people to be brave. Because the church has always been a safe place for me, and I've always, I haven't had to be brave. I can say what I want. And so I want to name that even in asking you this question, we're somehow asking you as the voices that are struggling to be heard to solve that problem. And I know that is in no way what David's implying, but the church is definitely guilty of that. And so I want to acknowledge that and say, my bad and our bad. But if we do want to journey together, recognizing that this takes courage that I could never imagine. What are there practical ways? Are there hints? Are there things that have worked before that would allow our church to hear your stories and your passions and your gifts, that for the benefit of our whole church moving forward? Anyone got something to say?
Well, I guess in terms of how we can move forward, and you did say it very well earlier, we need to stop treating, the brown church or the people of color as entertainment or for food. You have to actually listen to them and invite them and give them a platform to be able to speak and to give you their thoughts and where they want to see the church go. And not only listening, but then implementing change, because it is going to be different for everyone and for every church. But if you can listen as a church and then moving forward, change that and implement the changes that they want, and then also checking in with them to make sure that it's heading towards the place that they want it to be. So not just having like one meeting and changing a few rules and then expecting it to be okay. You have to be checking in and seeing if there's any other issues that come up and dealing with those. And yeah, I think that's one way that we can deal with things.
Sure. Joyce? Sam's just got to organise his props, so we'll give him a moment.
Yeah. I totally agree with Afa. I think, being on the same page, like for everyone to be on the same page and being able to talk honestly, not having to, hide away just because people don't want to hear it or people are scared to say what they want to say, but being able to be in the moment as well. And being able to listen out and to educate each other on topics and discussions, just for everyone to, I think it's, just to be able to set a space, like a real space, that everyone can be able to discuss.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks, Joyce. Sam.
Is there a way forward? What can we do? I don't know how practical this is, but talking from personal experience, you can get one of these signed. It's a marriage certificate. I think plenty of love. You know, God talks about God talks about the church being the bride and the bride of Christ, and Christ coming to laying his life down for the bride of Christ. And when I look around at multiculturalism, it's tricky. It's tricky to hear different voices and to acknowledge different voices. But there are cross-cultural marriages, and cross-cultural marriages work. It's hard work. I'm in a cross-cultural marriage. Right? My wife, even though, as I said, she looks Korean, but...
careful, Sam, careful.
When I met her at 18, right, she didn't know how to cook rice, right? She cooked rice like you cook pasta with a whole lot of water, then you tip the water. And the rice was still hard. It was painful. But through marriage, right? Through marriage, we've had plenty of challenges around many things, and those things continue to happen. We now have 2 children, and are we going to raise them the Asian way, the second gen way, or the Western way? Right? The challenges continue, but because we are married and because we love each other, we will hear each other's voice. We will sit and battle through the challenges, because the challenges are tricky. Absolutely, they're tricky. But I think we need relationships to be able to hold it all together. Yeah. So it's more than cultural intelligence. Cultural intelligence is good. That's a great start, but it involves sacrifice, as Christ gave himself up for the church. That's what we need to do for one another. Give ourselves up for each other.
Thanks, Sam. There is love for Sam's shirts and his props. A lot of love coming out of Adelaide, though. So I wonder what shonky deals have gone on behind the scenes. Claire is managing to stay awake. She must be under a 3rd or 4th Diet Coke. Reflecting back, this idea that we listen and we implement and then we reflect back continually. And this cycle, absolutely, it is a educational cycle. I'm going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to put myself up here. Hello. Friends, last comment, if you're in the audience and you've got final questions or comments, if you just want to express your appreciation for our 3 panelists, Sam, Joyce, Afa, they would appreciate that. They're not getting paid for tonight. Sorry, guys, I forgot to mention that beforehand. But they're just giving their time generously and sharing about their story. Our church, the Uniting Church, has 13 national conferences, over 50 languages spoken, a commitment to being a multicultural church, and yet we are a long way from that. And hopefully conversations like this can prompt that. In the work of the Assembly Discipling Next Generations Task Group, I went on the record that says that in the past, the church used to help young people find their purpose and voice in the world. And I think now it is young people like these 3 that are helping the church find its voice and purpose in the world. And so I hope that from places like tonight and conversations like this, the church will listen and be led. Tansy's given us some clapping. Interestingly, 3 claps. There are 4 of us. So, you know, thanks, Tansy. I'm claiming 1 of them. You guys can fight it out for the rest. Oh, no. Hang on. Technical difficulties. We're back. Any final comments from our panelists?
I will say that multiculturalism is not just for show. It's not something that just needs to be seen. It's more than that. It has to be felt. So in order for something or for a church to be multicultural, it doesn't just need other people of color. They also have to feel included, and they have to feel welcome and part of that church for it to actually be multicultural. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say.
I'm going to give that a special. I need a Sam Chan prop, like, because all three of you are dropping like booms, and I need a prop that's like woo. Thanks, Afa, that was great. In fact, Nicole agrees. That is a really helpful comment. I don't know what the context of Nicole's comment was, but I'm going to choose that it was to that. Joyce or Sam? Sam, you haven't said much. Do you have anything to say? Joyce, any final comments?
I'll go after you, Joyce.
The discussions tonight's been awesome. It's great to hear different stories, and hopefully us panelists and the people listening can take that back, because multiculturalism is starting, and like everything else, day by day we continue to improve and be more part of our church in our second gen. So yeah, thanks it's been great.
Sam?
I've got a closing comment. Our good friend in the Bible, Moses. He had a constant bonfire going.
Yep.
Moses was the second gen. Right? The second gen story is clearly in the Bible through a number of characters, and often God uses the second gen to lead the nation. Moses grew up in between these two worlds. Moses had a lot of second gen challenges, but Moses was the second gen that God chose to lead the people out of Egypt. Moses was most probably bilingual. He was a Hebrew, adopted into the Egyptian family. Who else would be a better choice to lead the Israelites out of Egypt? Someone that could speak both languages, someone that knew both worlds, someone that not only knew the worlds, but had significant positions within those worlds. So I'm quite, even though second gens have plenty of challenges, I'm quite excited for the future of second gen, to see our story in the Bible and to see what God has done with second gen.
Thanks, Sam. Sam Moses. That'll be trending soon. Don't worry about that. Well, I think Katie, I think it's safe to say, is not a fan of the xylophone. Not a fan of the xylophone. Katie, if you think I can afford one of those soundboard apps, you drastically overestimate how much money I'm earning for this wee little program. But I think when it's all said and done, that's all we got time for. Sam, Afa, Joyce, you guys have been rock stars. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for the ministry you do in your place, in your service to the wider Uniting Church and your communities. I'm going to finish with an ad, but you guys can hang around if you want. Part of what we're doing here is trying to overcome geographic and financial boundaries to resource the church, to have these tough conversations in a way that is accessible to anyone with an internet connection. We also do that through the Work Experience podcast, which proudly hosts this show. All three of you have been guests on that podcast, and it comes out every Wednesday. You can find it in your favorite podcast app, or you can find it at its new website, www.workxpc.com. Thanks, Web Guy, for putting that up. Where we try and have conversations about the Uniting Church and the young people that are in it by hearing their stories and challenging some of the ideas. Interestingly, I put that link up and 5 people left the stream. So You know, that makes sense. But friends, if you want to be part of that or find out more, you'd be really welcome to join the conversation with Work Experience Podcast. Carissa Sooley, sort of the mother hen of second gen and assembly officer. What a great team. Thank you for your wisdom and insight to your own stories and experiences. Marlaw, of course, no mention of the host, but that's fine. We're going to click end broadcast. Thank you, guys. You want to wave goodbye? Bye. Thank you. We're going to end the broadcast. Friends, it's been great, and we'll talk to you again soon.
See you soon. Thanks, Braden.